There's a pending motion in front of the group, but you need some extra time to think about your decision and your reasons for voting the way you're going to vote. Maybe there is some extra information and some additional research that you want to do. Maybe later time there'll be a presentation from an expert or an outside organization that will help inform your decision. You want some extra time for consideration, but you want to make sure that this motion comes back to the full assembly. Well, the motion to postpone to a certain time is the motion for you. On this episode of Parliamentary Inquiry, we're going to take a deep look into this motion, the motion to postpone until a certain time, and we're going to look at its characteristics and when and why you may want to use this. All right, let's dive in. The motion to postpone to a certain time. This motion puts a pause on things. In fact, we touched on it in another video called The Parking Lot of Ideas. But what it does is it postpones a motion or a pending question, and it designates a specific time for when that question will come back in front of the assembly once again. This could be a specific date, a specific time. It could be later on in your agenda, or it could be after a certain event has taken place. When a motion is postponed to a certain time, all of the subsidiary motions or amendments and such are postponed along with it. And when it's taken up again by the assembly, it's taken up in the exact same form in which it was postponed. So we're going to look at the characteristics from the lens of Robert's Rules of Order, the Standard Code, and Bourneau's Rules of Order. The first one is precedence. So this motion, according to Robert's Rules, has precedence over the motion to commit or refer to committee, the motion to amend, the motion to postpone indefinitely, and of course, the main motion, where the Standard Code has this taking precedence over the motion to refer to a committee, the motions to amend, and the main motion. Bourneau actually doesn't have an explicit reference to the order of precedence of this motion. The next characteristics is what this motion applies to. And Robert's Rules is very clear. It applies to the main motion for sure. It can also apply to other procedural nuances, and Robert's Rules goes in depth into how that works, where the Standard Code really only refers to its application to the main motion. And Bourneau, again, is silent on its application, but does talk about it being a debatable motion, and so that does imply that it is applicable to the main motion. The next characteristics. Can you interrupt somebody who already has the floor? And both Robert's Rules and the Standard Code are very clear. You cannot interrupt somebody who already has the floor, where Bourneau, again, is silent on this characteristic. Next question. Is a seconder required? And in this instance, all three authorities agree this motion needs to be seconded before it can be debated. Which brings us to, is this debatable? And again, all three authorities agree that yes, this is a debatable motion. So the motion needs to be properly moved, it needs to be seconded, and then you can go into debate. And the debate is on the merits of the motion to postpone to a certain time. Is it amendable? In both Robert's Rules and Standard Code, they do talk about the fact that the motion to postpone to a certain time is an amendable motion, specifically the time in which you would like to postpone it to. For no, again, silent. Now, what kind of vote is required for this motion to pass? In its basic form, both Robert's Rules and Standard Code require a majority vote. It's when it becomes either a special order, according to Robert's Rules, or a scheduled order, according to Standard Code, which you would need a 2/3 majority. For no, silent on the question of what kind of vote is required. Finally, can this vote be either reconsidered or renewed? Robert's Rules says that the affirmative vote can be reconsidered, while a negative vote can be reconsidered until progress has been made so as to make it a new question, at which point it can be renewed. What Standard Code says is that it can be renewed after a change in the parliamentary situation. Finally, Borno doesn't say a single thing about whether it can be renewed or can be reconsidered. A few special notes on this motion, and these notes relate to the time limits to which you can postpone your main motion. The first is you can't postpone your main motion beyond the point of it being effective. So, for example, if the main motion had to do with a funding application, there are deadlines associated with funding applications, and you can't postpone the motion beyond the funding deadline. That would have the effect of killing the motion, and there's already another motion to do that. It's postponed to an indefinite time. And we'll talk about that in a different video. The second limit is you can't postpone a main motion beyond the point where your membership might change. So this could be an annual meeting where membership could change. It could be if you're involved in local government past an election where the membership could change. If there's a chance for officers or membership to change over, you can't postpone beyond that point. And in even more detail, Robert's Rules of Order talks about the differences between meetings and sessions. And here's, in a nutshell, what Robert's Rules has to say about that. If the time is greater than a quarter between meetings, you cannot postpone beyond the end of the current session. If meetings happen more frequently, the question can be postponed until the next regular business session, but not beyond. And now here's 3 examples of how you would propose this motion. Example A, I move to postpone the motion to the next meeting. Pretty straightforward. Example B, I move that the motion be postponed until 8 p.m. Maybe a few of your members have conflicting commitments, but you know that they'll be at the meeting by, let's say, 7:30. Postponing the main motion to 8 p.m. just makes sense. Finally, here's a third example. I move that the motion be postponed until after the presentation by the chair of the Finance Committee later this evening. So in this case, there may be some really helpful information that you anticipate coming out of the finance chair's presentation that will help inform your decision making and your deliberations on this motion. It makes sense to postpone to a certain time after a certain event. In this case, it's after the chair of the Finance Committee's presentation later this evening. Postpone to a certain time. Sometimes you need more time to get your thoughts together, to allow missing members to arrive and participate in the discussion, or you think a presentation or more information will help inform good decision making. This motion allows your group the time and the space that it needs to make informed and well-considered decisions without these motions getting lost. The motion to postpone to a certain time needs to be properly moved and seconded when it's your time to take the floor. It is a debatable motion and needs a majority vote to be adopted. But if it does pass, the main motion and all associated subsidiary motions are put on pause until it's time to take up that motion once again in the exact same form in which you led it. Finally, motion to postpone to a certain time is a very specific motion, and avoid at all costs motions to defer. Motions to defer tend to be vague and misleading, so let's put those aside. And the motion to lay on the table is a different motion, so do your best not to confuse those two motions. We will be discussing the motion to lay on a table in a different video of Parliamentary Inquiry. And if you haven't checked it out already, in the monthly grind series, there's a video called The Parking Lot of Ideas. And this video talks at a higher level about this motion and a couple of other actions that you can take to set aside a motion that is pending or a question that is pending in front of the group to allow yourself a little bit of time to gather more information, get your thoughts together, and have a good, well-informed debate and decision. All right, meeting adjourned for this episode of Parliamentary Inquiry. If you found this interesting or helpful, hit the like button and remember to drop any questions that you have down in the comment section. If you're looking for step-by-step breakdowns of procedural items, check out the series Order of Business. If you're interested in more long-form conversation around issues pertaining to meeting rules and procedure, check out Point of Order. If you're looking for general insights into how to make your meetings more effective, the Monthly Grind is the series for you. For now, why not watch one of these two videos here or here, and I will see you next time.